Okay, so the carb flu, which is something that I wanted to discuss next week, has been asked about on the group. The carb flu is our body literally withdrawing from carbs, from the addiction our body has to sugar. Our brain utilizes glucose, which is sugar, first and foremost as its first line of not defense, but is its first source of energy. So the insulin dips, which I've talked about on a previous video, happen when the glucose that is in our liver becomes so low that our brain picks up the fact that it's low. The sugar that we have stored for energy is low, so the brain, which cares about itself first and foremost, says, I need to go get more food. So we start to get hangry. We start to crave certain foods, and that's why we eat every 3 or 4 hours. We're programmed, because of our society and the way we grew up to eat 5 to 6 times a day. But in reality, you shouldn't. The less often you eat, the lower insulin levels in your body you will have. And when your insulin level becomes lower, that allows our body, and I talked about this today in the video, to release glucagon, which is actually the hormone that says tap into our energy reserves that we have in our system. So 2 or 3 days into going low carb, high fat, you should start to feel a little bit of a headache, just like of a caffeine withdrawal. You're going to start to feel more tired. You're going to start to feel sort of lethargic, and you might have some brain fog. You won't feel sick as like the real flu, but you'll feel sluggish. If you fast, you will, instead of hitting that maybe 4 days, 3 or 4 days or 5 days into it, instead of waiting that long, you can go into your carb flu 2 days into it, maybe even 24 hours, depending on how much you're fasting and how hard you're working out. So the carb flu will hit 3 or 4 or 5 days into the low carb, high fat diet approach, and can last, it should last 3 to, maybe I'd say 3 days for most people, but for some people it might last 2 weeks. But a way you can fight the carb flu is to make sure that you are salting your foods. Don't be afraid of salt. You can have bone broth or chicken broth with some salt. Stay hydrated. A lot of people take magnesium supplements because magnesium is associated with the amount of carbs that we have in our body. And the thing is that you're releasing carbs from your body. For every gram of carb, I think our body stores about the equal amount of water. So we are going to be losing a lot of water weight. So we have to stay hydrated, and we have to keep our electrolytes high. That's a way to fight the carb flu. Also, make sure you're getting rest. And another way you could do it is to make sure you're eating more often. If you regularly eat 6 times a day, eat 6 times a day. But low carb, high fat. And also, the last tip is, instead of dropping your calories for that first week down, and I'll talk about this later, you can keep your caloric intake the same and just make sure that you're eating all those calories mainly from fat, keeping your carbs to 75 grams if you want to start off easy, but 50 grams or less if you want to try to hit it hard the first week. Carb flu, it'll happen, but it's okay, you'll get past it. Peace.